People ask me all the time to show off some of the books on my wall. Well, in this video, I'm finally going to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swagglehos. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of the books on my wall. That's right, you see these books behind me. A lot of you guys have been asking me to show them off. And well, as you can see here, I pulled off a few. And in this video, I'm going to show you what they are. But before I get into showing off the books, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying my content. Love interacting with you guys, and let's keep this conversation going. All right, with that being said, like I mentioned earlier, one of the comments I get a lot, or, messages, personal messages on Instagram and things like that is, hey, can you show off some of the books on your back wall? And, for a while, I kind of didn't really want to do a video like this because I felt like, well, that would just be kind of boring, right? If I just said, here are my books, but I figured, maybe there's a way that I can kind of just talk about each one that I got and maybe share a little story about, how I came across it or maybe what some of the significance of it is. And hopefully you guys find this interesting. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see me do the videos like this and just talk about books and just hang out with you guys and talk shop. So I started, as you can see, I grabbed the books that are just right here in the lower left corner. I figured I'd start at the bottom, and we'll just go through them one by one, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. Maybe there's some spec stuff you guys can hear about, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you can just hear a cool story about each one. All right. So with that being said, the first book I have here on my wall that lives down there is Incredible Hulk, number 340. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is a Todd McFarlane classic cover where Wolverine and Hulk get their rematch. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, are well aware of Hulk 181, Wolverine's first appearance, where he and the Hulk do battle. Well, this is their rematch. And, this is a really cool book because, Hulk 181, we all know the prices are so ridiculous that this has kind of become, in my opinion, the kind of consolation prize for people who want to, have some kind of cool interaction between Wolverine and the Hulk. And not to mention that, it's just a classic Todd McFarlane cover. And for me, the story of how I acquired this book, I actually got this one off of eBay. And what basically had happened was, I never really necessarily wanted to get this book, but, I started to really think about it and just think about like the copper age in general. And we start to see these copper books like starting to heat up overall. And to me, I thought, this is a book that I feel like is an instant classic from the copper age because it's a Todd McFarlane piece, because it's, Wolverine and the Hulk. And I figured that I should probably just have this book. Like I think that this is one that is always going to be desired because people remember it so fondly. This is just a classic cover, and it's been, paid homage to many times, that I felt like maybe I should get this. And so, I started hunting on eBay. Like, I think this was like, I don't know, 7-8 months ago when I got this book, and I just looked and I really was like diligent about waiting for the right time to buy this book and waiting for, a good window to like sneak in a live auction. And I ended up picking up this one for about $60, I think is what I ended up winning this for as a bid, which is great. It's not a perfect book. It's got a couple spine ticks here, but generally speaking, I'd say it's probably an 8, maybe 8 or so. So definitely a cool book to have, and one that I got, for the PC. All right, the next book that you see behind my head all the time is this right here, Nova #1. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of Nova, Richard Rider. And this has been a super hot spec book for a long time, right? Like, people have been talking about this book, thinking Nova is going to come into the MCU in some kind of way. I mean, we know that the Nova Corps exists, right? We saw them in Guardians of the Galaxy, but we don't know if Richard Rider is necessarily going to come to the MCU, although Kevin Feige has now alluded to it. So this was one book that it's really funny because, like, I always loved Nova. Like, when I was growing up, Darkhawk and Nova were like kind of a 1A and 1B. Like, I just loved those characters for some reason. And, but I never had this book, and I thought, hey, maybe I should get that. And maybe I should definitely get it because of the spec opportunity with it. So, this was like, again, kind of like the Wolverine book, maybe 7-8 months ago or so, I decided to hunt this book, and I found this for dirt cheap on a live action bid. I got this for $25. But again, the Mylar makes it look nice, but if you guys really studied it, this is probably a 7, I would call it. It's got some spine ticks, it's got some creases here and there. So it's not a perfect book by any means, but for $25, not a bad price to pay. But with that being said, I absolutely hate this cover. Like, I think it's so ugly. And I'm sorry if you're like, a fan out there of Nova, or if you drew this piece, I'm very sorry. I don't mean to upset you, but I've mentioned in the past that I have like a bias against Bronze Age. I just really don't like the Marvel Comics group line here. I don't know what it is. I don't love Bronze Age stuff. Sorry, I hope I'm not offending anybody. But yeah, even though this lives on the wall, it's something that I don't necessarily love. I don't admire it in the same sort of way that I do some of the other books. And for that reason, when we do get Nova in the MCU, if this book takes off and skyrockets, I am definitely going to trade the equity of this for some other book that I really do want eventually. So Nova #1, still a great book, very, very cool. Some of these books are the ones that like hide right behind my neck, so you guys don't often see them. But yeah, Nova #1, very, very cool. All right, the next book I have here is X Factor #6. This lives over my left shoulder, and this is a really cool book. This is the first full appearance of Apocalypse. And talk about underrated books. I think that this is one of the most undervalued books there is in the market. I mean, Apocalypse to me is an A-tier bad guy, and I don't know why this book you can find for like $30 and $40. Like, it's so surprising to me that you can find this book for that cheap all the time. Maybe it's because it's just, it's an 80s book, Copper Age, high print run, that sort of thing. But this is a book that I feel like everybody should have this in their collection. I mean, even if you're, not a huge fan of Apocalypse, it just feels like for the price that this book is, it's totally worth having. It's totally worth getting your hands on. And Apocalypse is just an awesome character. And maybe, I think about like, we got Apocalypse in that X-Men movie, whatever it was, Apocalypse, I forget the title, but, it was not a very, very good movie. And I think they did Apocalypse kind of dirty in that movie. And for that reason, maybe the brand of his supervillain character was really hurt by that. And for that reason, I think a lot of people kind of sold this stock, so to speak. So the value might have tanked. But again, I think that this is an amazing book to have. I think it's such a good book. One of the great ones that came out of the Copper Age. Apocalypse is a great villain. I think that we'll see him again in the MCU. I think they can do a better job this time around. And yeah, definitely worth having. I mean, this is a book that actually, this is kind of a cool thing. I have a special place in my heart for this book. When I got back into collecting in 2017, around is the time when I started to really get back into collecting. This was one of the first keys that I bought in my LCS. Like, I saw this hanging on the wall. It was $25 at the time. But when I found out that it was the first appearance of Apocalypse, I was like, man, I grew up watching that X-Men cartoon from the early 90s. I loved Apocalypse. I had to get my hands on this book, and I think it's a great cover. So first full appearance of Apocalypse, X Factor #6. Everyone should have this in their collection. All right, the next book I have here in the wall behind my head that you see right here over my left shoulder is X-Men #39. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the earliest X-Men that I own. It is a classic sort of Silver Age X-Men. And Key Collector would tell you that this is the first time that the X-Men kind of brand or wore these new costumes. And that's something that's really cool to me because, in some ways, especially Cyclops' outfit and Jean Grey's outfit, these are some really iconic costumes that they're wearing. And, for me, I would love to own an X-Men #1, but it's just a grail that's not in my budget at the moment. So when I came across this book, X-Men 39, I just felt that the cover presented really well, and it just was just a very like kind of cool X-Men book to own. So I had to get my hands on it. I think I paid maybe $15 or $20 for this. It's got a lot of wear on it, a lot of color breaking along the spine here. But, for 15, $20, early Silver Age X-Men book. This is the oldest X-Men book I own. I felt like I had to get it. But again, I think one day when I'm able to sort of like upgrade to some other Silver Age X-Men books, I'll probably swap this one. So I don't know. Like this one to me is it's always on the chopping block of my of my wall back there. Like, you know, when I think about like, oh, maybe I should put this other book on the wall, or when I acquire new ones, I'm always considering moving this one off. But I have a bias towards Silver Age stuff, so it's constantly made the cut, and for that reason, it sits on the wall, and you know, I still love it. It's a great pose. It's a great great cover for X-Men, and yeah, X-Men number 39. All right, two more books here. Two more books. All right, the next book I have is X-Men number 64, and this is the first appearance of a character known as Sunfire. And Sunfire is a mutant who is actually a Japanese mutant, and he has had a lot of interaction with the X-Men, and this was one that I picked up genuinely on Spec. I think I got this, I don't remember exactly, maybe 6 months ago or so. I was in an LCS and I came across this book, and it was being sold for $35. And considering that it was about like a fine or maybe a fine plus, I figured $35, first appearance of you know, Sunfire, classic Silver Age book. I figured, hey, I should definitely grab this thing. So I'm really happy that I did. I'm one who thinks maybe Sunfire could come to the MCU. Like if Feige's thinking that he wants to do different X-Men and different mutants, and they want to do like kind of a global thing where they look for diverse casting, Sunfire is a great mutant to include in that because he's Japanese. You can have the Asian audience. There definitely needs to be more Asian superheroes in the MCU. I mean, you have Shang-Chi coming, which is great. But this is I think this is an underrated book overall. I think that Sunfire is a really, you know, has a lot of potential for it to be a great character. And I actually read this book, and this specific issue was really well written. It was it was a very good read, and I enjoyed Sunfire's backstory and history, and it really like kind of went into like World War II Japan with the U.S. and the atomic bomb and internment camps and stuff. So I thought that was a really interesting foundation for a storyline. And that's something that would be cool to see in the MCU. So X-Men 64, very, very underrated. Very, very cool book. All right. And the last book I have that lives behind my head on my left shoulder right here is X-Men 221. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of Mr. Sinister. This is a book that I think also, like the Apocalypse one, is very, very underrated. And I happen to think that when we get X-Men into the MCU, I think it's very possible that the first villain they go against is going to be Mr. Sinister's. And for that reason, this is a book that I think that, like the Apocalypse one, everyone should try to have this in their collection if they're fans. You know, obviously get what you want, but as far as like Spec, I mean, for a book like this, which you can find for, you know, $40 or so, I think it's totally worthwhile having this in your collection. And Mr. Sinister, he's just a great villain. Like, you know, they were laying, you know, Easter eggs and the foundation for Mr. Sinister to come into the Fox franchise, but they never ended up doing it. But I think that it's possible that we could see him in the MCU. And if we see him in the MCU, this book is going to go bananas. The only problem with this is that it's unfortunate that Mr. Sinister is not on the cover of this book, because if he was, I feel like this book would be double what it is worth right now. But, you know, I got this, I think that this was one of the first older keys I got. I got this like years ago. And at the time I got it, it was around $20. But it's a really nice copy, probably a near mint. Maybe it's a 9.4. I see one spine tick on it. So maybe it's like a 9.4, 9.2 at the worst, but a great copy nonetheless. First appearance of Mr. Sinister, X-Men 221. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. That was me showing you guys some of the books on my wall. Let me know what you guys think about this type of video. I mean, I'm trying to make it fun and interesting for you guys, so you know, trying to add some flavor and stories about the books. Let me know if you think it's worth me doing more videos like this. I can take the next 6 and then the next and the next, and you know, I can even dig into my bins and say like, here's some books that I've been thinking about putting on the wall, or here's some sleeper stuff, just my way of sort of talking about my collection with you guys and trying to give it some context, and I don't know, maybe I can share some fun facts about a book that you guys don't know about. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Drop me a like, comment, or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next one.